I'll tell you the same thing I told her. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Well,
lawyers, judges, technology.
Governors?
Some, but there aren't many living guns.
We got to use every lever we can.
We are doing that.
Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. Lawyers, judges, technology. Those are three words that encapsulate just how Donald Trump and his team plan to steal the next presidential election, in their own words. The man you heard on tape in his own words is Trump ally and pardoned criminal Roger Stone. He was speaking at a Catholic event in March at Mar-a-Lago, where Roger Stone was the keynote speaker. He made those comments thinking he was talking to a fan when he was actually speaking to progressive activist Lauren Windsor. She's the same woman who obtained recordings of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito that we played on this program last week. The recordings of Stone are just as alarming, if not more so, because he speaks about direct actions in the works, plans that have been drawn up on the part of Trump and his allies. The plan they have to contest the next election results based on the false claim of voter fraud. Listen to his conversation with Lauren Windsor's colleague, who was posing as a fan of Stone's earlier that same night.
What stops them from just like voter fraud? Like
They in some states it'll be easier to stop them. In other places it won't. But at least this time, when they do it, you have a lawyer and a judge whose phone number standing by so you can stop him. We made no preparations last time. None.
Well, I was at the Capitol, so I'm prepared to go back.
Well, that may not be necessary. There are technical and legal steps that we have to take to try to have a more honest election. We're not there yet, but there are things that can be done.
Like what?
It's a long conversation. I'm working with changes in state law, real-time voter list monitoring, going to court as we just did to challenge some of the voter lists. The election's not tomorrow. We went into court to sue in Michigan over the handling of ballots, which we sued in half a dozen places. And then we found it now on an offensive footing.
What Windsor and her colleague uncover here is a plan that's already in place by Trump's key lieutenant to use judges and their home phone numbers and the legal system to get the election result they want. It's a politicization of the rule of law and undermining of American democracy. And it happens while the highest court in the land is still deciding whether a president has full immunity for his actions, a decision that could come as soon as tomorrow. Roger Stone's response to Rolling Stone, which first published the recordings, was this, quote, "All of the election integrity provisions I suggested are perfectly legal and should be part of any ballot security effort," end quote. There was another part of his conversation that's also raising alarms. He spoke about the many criminal trials the ex-president currently faces, talked about how the tactics to delay those until after the November election, a majority of which have been successful so far, are so vital politically. Watch.
The president's trial in Georgia's falling apart. I think the judges are on the verge of dismissing the charges against him in Florida. They're delayed in New York City, and they're now delayed in Washington. It's not clear that they can have a trial before the election, which is the absolute key to being able to convince people that the reason we lost was because of the trial. Right now, if they steal it, people say, well, that's not possible. Trump is leading in all the polls. They want to try him, suck up his money, suck up his time, and create a reason why their theft is plausible, believable. You see?
You see? It's where we start today with executive producer and creator of The Undercurrent, the aforementioned Lauren Windsor is here with us. Thank you so much for being here. I want to get into how you do what you do, how you personally deal with, I saw some of the threats Roger Stone made against you to sue you today, but I want to start with what you've revealed. And I want to thank you for what you're revealing about institutions and organizations and people that are at best opaque to the public and the American people. Tell me about this conversation that you and your colleague had with Roger Stone.
Thanks for having me, Nicole. So this wasn't the first conversation that I had with Roger Stone. I spoke with him last summer at an event for Florida teenage Republicans. The goal of talking to him was really to understand what was afoot with the 2024 election. And so the initial question I'd asked him was, how are you going to keep Democrats from stealing the election again? What he told me last summer was, we have a plan, it's legal, it's technical, the RNC should have done it last time. So because in that particular circumstance, I couldn't really have an extended conversation with him, I wanted to see if I could get more information on that. So Allie and I went to Mar-a-Lago in March to this Catholics for Catholics event and tried to get more information on this plan from him. So that's really the genesis of this tape.
Is it hard to get into an event like that at Mar-a-Lago?
Well, we bought tickets and we walked in. They checked our names when we came in the door. So you have to pay the fee. I forget exactly how much money that particular event costs. I believe it was $500.
Tell me about this, what you heard when he talked about having judges' home phone numbers.
Well, so that was in a conversation with Allie, but when I heard the audio from that conversation, it was definitely alarming because, to me, Roger Stone, pretty much embraces his reputation as a dirty trickster, the Dapper Don of dirty deeds, right? Mm-hmm. So when he says that he's innocent in this, it's innocent preparation for 2024, should we take him at his word? He's the Dapper Don of dirty deeds. He's a convicted felon. He's discussed assassinating members of Congress, which he's currently under investigation for, or I should say has been under investigation for. I don't know the status of that investigation. So it was alarming to me to hear that he might have phone numbers of judges, and it really led me to wonder, who is he reaching out to? Is he reaching out to judges about ballot integrity, voter fraud? Is he reaching out to judges who are connected to any of the cases against Donald Trump? I don't know, and I just think that they are questions worth asking.
Yeah, I mean, the last piece of tape we played is Roger Stone's view on the success of the delay strategy. How did you hear that?
Well, it was clear to me because the first thing that he went to when he said, we're beating them right now, Allie says, how so? He's not saying we're beating them, we're beating Democrats in the polls, we're beating them in voter registrations, we're beating them in any number of voter outreach metrics. He goes directly to the status of all the cases. So that, to me, said that the courts really are a focal point to their strategy to win. In neither conversation with me nor Allie did he say anything about positive voter outreach and organizing.
What sort of, I mean, you obviously are filling in a huge space. This is a blind spot. Those of us covering the race have no idea what Roger Stone says to people he thinks are sort of allies or in in the trenches with him. Tell me how you decide, who to try to pursue this unvarnished truth from.
Well, so for me, really, first and foremost, for any operation, it's undercover, because I do employ other methodologies. I have done online research, produced the website Project Veritas Exposed, for example. I have bird dogged members of Congress on the Hill at events around the country. And when I say bird dogging, I mean just showing up with a microphone and a camera. And so it's really, a pretty transparent process. I am a member of the press. I'm asking you a question directly to your face. But for undercover operations, I really feel like there has to be a reason why I'm going undercover that I couldn't normally go undercover. What is it? And to me, if you're planning to overturn an election, most people aren't going to openly talk about that. And so yeah, if you look at my career since 2012, when I launched the Undercurrent with the Young Turks Network, you can see that I've had some undercover work in there, but it really didn't become a substantive part of my work until after 2020 with the Georgia runoffs. I went to Georgia for these 2 historic runoffs, and all of the events that I went to, I could see that these surrogates that were in the state to stump for Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue were openly talking about still fighting for President Trump, urging voters in Georgia to still fight for President Trump. And this was the middle of December. So I've really been kind of on I don't want to say a crusade, but I guess it is a crusade, a quest to make sure that we don't have a replication of January 6th, because I really do see January 6th as an on-par event with 9/11. I witnessed 9/11 on the ground. I was living in New York City, and it was, deeply, I guess, politically formative in, moving me to be more politically engaged. And so when January 6th happened, I really just felt obligated as a patriot, out of love for this country, to make sure that we could maintain the tradition of secular democracy.